just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh yes it will. Said I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh yes it will. Oh, then I go to my brother, singing, brother, help me please. But he was knocking me down on my knees. There were times that I thought I couldn't last for long. And now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
Let's give her another round of applause. At this time, I would like to bring to the stage Mr. Willis Johnson, CEO of JBJ Management, to introduce our keynote speaker. I'm going to take some sponsorship privileges. I'm the son of a preacher. I've had a microphone before, but Diane Gibson, as an old preacher would say, I won't hold you long. I do just want to acknowledge a couple of people that or I think are significant for being here tonight. And that's the first African-American female city manager of Dallas, Texas. That's all y'all got? That's all y'all got? She's the first African-American female city manager of Dallas, Texas. That don't happen, man. That don't happen. Shoot. She's from Tyler, Texas. Tyler, Texas, which is a suburb of Gladewater, Texas. I'm so proud of Kim, though, because
when TC was here, Kim was driving the ship then. And now she has full grip. And these are some difficult times. And so I just think we as a city need to get behind our city manager. I'm a big fan of Kim Tolbert. So I also want to take a special moment to acknowledge Councilwoman Emeritus Diane Ragsdale. Listen, when Jerome, and you know this, when Al and Diane were at City Hall, woo-hoo. So a lot of things that have occurred that are so positive is because of that era of Diane Ragsdale. And so I'll never forget what you did. Councilwoman Emeritus, thank you so much. St. Marshall. Stand up, Cent. It's a bad girl back there. It's not often you get in front of an African-American female president of an NBA franchise. But Cent told me something today. She said, JBJ posted all of the events that the city of Dallas was doing. And she says, I've been to 3 of them already because you posted it. And so thank you, Cent, for being engaged with this city of Dallas. She may not be the president of the Mavericks, but she's still in Dallas, Texas. So thank you, Cent Marshall, for being here today. There was a movie called Straight Outta Compton by the NWA. Stand up, man. The DOC. The DOC. Y'all don't get it. Y'all don't get it, man. Y'all don't get it, man. Y'all don't understand who that is. Y'all don't understand who that is. That boy wrote all that stuff, man. It wasn't just Ice Cube. It wasn't just Dr. Dre. It was that guy right there. One of my closest friends was the first black mayor of Dallas. Mayor Ron Kirk, 30 years ago. Stand up, Mayor. Stand up, Mayor. That's all y'all got? That's what? Listen. Ron and I and Royce and John Wiley, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. When my mother died, in her front yard was a sign that said Ron Kirk for Senate. I mean, that's just who she was, man. That was one of her boys. But y'all don't understand. Matrice Kirk is here. Oh, my God. Even when Ron was the mayor, Matrice had, what? This is Matrice's first MLK gala. Stand up, Matrice Kirk. Stand up, girl. Stand up. I don't get a chance to get at Matrice often because she's always got it together, So I just like to. She's a bad girl, though. She is a bad girl. Ron married up. No question about it. He married up. Okay, they gave me this thing to read about Roland Martin. How much of this you want me to read, Roland? It says that Roland has been a staunch presence for civil rights on a nationally syndicated show such as The Situation Room, the Anderson Cooper AC 360. He served as a political analyst on TV One and CNN. He is a published author and a nationally recognized columnist who worked. His work reached millions across the country. What I don't see in here is when he worked at Soul 73 KKDA. That's what I don't see in here. I don't see that in here. Roland and I worked every morning for 3 years. I don't know, how did that not make the cut? So I'm gonna write this down. Listen, we are in for a treat tonight. We're in for a big treat. I had the pleasure of working with Roland back in, I don't know, man, it was a long time ago. And we got up every morning at 5 o'clock and did our morning show. I learned a lot about Roland then. He was coming from the Star Telegram at the time. Roland has always been the guy that you're going to hear tonight. That's who he is. He is true to himself. The only difference that Roland and I have is that he's an Aggie. And Ron, you know how we roll. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the man, Roland Martin.
All right, how we doing? Well, it says Soul 73 didn't make the cut. First of all, if you go to RolandSMartin.com, it's in the bio. So whoever edited the bio, that's who you should be cussing out. I know what it says because I wrote it. Glad to be here. Glad to be back in Dallas. I spent time, yes, not just at the Fort Worth Star Telegram, KKDA, also ran the Dallas Weekly. And so there's a lot of familiar faces in here. And Willis, you see, you trying to dog Patrice, but it's her first time here. She came here to hear me. What's wrong with you? Come on now. It is good to be here. Like so many friendly faces. Always glad to see my man Ron Kirk. They would never sit us together when he was in the Obama administration because they knew the table would get loud, probably lots of cussing. Because we always go at it, whether it's on the golf course or anywhere else. And so it's good to see him. Also, let me give y'all an MLK Center story. So First Lady Hillary Clinton, when she visited the MLK Center, it's literally, the MLK Center was literally about not even 100 yards from the Dallas Weekly. So I decided to go over, and I wanted to see the layout, and I walked in. They had these 2 rooms set up, and they had one room over here, then they had all these lights in the other room. And I said, hey, what's happening here? I said, well, the First Lady, she's going to come in here, she's going to mix and mingle with the kids, and the press, they're going to take photos. I said, okay, who? They said, well, it's the press pool. I said, well, who's in the press pool? They said, well, Dallas Morning News, Associated Press, UPI, and they mentioned somebody else, and I said, ain't no black media in the press pool? They said, well, no, that's it, the press pool closed. I said, oh, hell no. Ain't no way in hell y'all gonna come to South Dallas and a black paper is across the street and y'all ain't gonna have nobody from black-owned media in the press pool. And so the advanced person had a certain look in her eye, and she was like, I'll be right back. And so she went and talked to somebody else, and she said, sir, you've been added to the press pool. I said, yeah, I thought so. So if you come to my Black Star Network studio, there's a photo of Hillary Clinton that I shot. And the reason I say that is because I have spent more years in black-owned media than anywhere else, and I refuse to allow black-owned media to be treated like second class. And wouldn't allow it. But it's also a matter of relationships. Because, see, Willis, you talk about KKDA. See, the media used to always call Mayor Kirk's house when something happened. And Latrice had a rule. Do not call my house before 7 a.m. Well, that rule existed for everybody but us. So we were going to air at 6 o'clock in major story. I would call and she would answer the phone like, who is this? It's Roland. Ron, it's Roland. Answer the phone. So I always appreciated that she made him take the call. But again, understand, because as mayor, he understood the importance of black radio and understood that if you're going to talk to the other radio stations at KRLD, then you're going to talk to KKDA. If you're going to talk to the Dallas Morning News, you're going to talk to the Dallas Weekly. And too often around the country, that does not happen. And so it's always important we understand how vital black-owned media is. We're talking about Dr. King tonight and others, but the reality, folks don't realize that he was in Ebony and Jet before he was in the New York Times and Time in Newsweek. In fact, we're talking about, we often spend time celebrating him, but we make a grave mistake every year when we celebrate his federal holiday and we don't mention Coretta Scott King. When I talk about black press, many of us know that iconic photo of Bernice being on her lap at the funeral, and that was Monetta Sleet with Ebony. He became the first African-American to win a Pulitzer Prize for that photo. But a lot of people don't realize is that was never going to happen without Coretta Scott King, because even at Dr. King's funeral, there was a Jim Crow press pool. No black media was allowed in the press pool to cover his funeral. And Lerone Bennett of Ebony Magazine and Simeon Booker of Jet Magazine went to Mrs. King, and they said, Mrs. King, they're not allowing Ebony and Jet to be in the press pool to cover Dr. King's funeral. And understand, they covered him his entire life. Lerone Bennett was there at Morehouse with him. And Coretta Scott King said, let all of them know that if Ebony and Jet is not allowed in that press pool, there will be no press allowed in the church to cover my husband's funeral. So the reason he was able to capture that photo is because she stood up and said Ebony and Jet must be allowed in that press pool. And so that's why I think it's important for us to always remember that. And while I'm on that point, again, this is a federal holiday that recognizes his birthday. But I got to remind folks, in 1964, when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, he accepted, the Nobel Peace Prize, his name is on it. Nobody gave him somebody else's Nobel Peace Prize. Some of y'all gonna figure that out when y'all get home, what I'm talking about. Dr. King accepted the prize. He did not accept the prize on behalf of himself. He accepted the prize on behalf of the entire movement. And so when we focus on this weekend, I think we have to expand our perspective, because we can not only celebrate him on this weekend, we must celebrate all of the foot soldiers and all of the folks who made it possible. You can't celebrate him if you don't celebrate Ralph Abernathy and Fred Shuttlesworth and James Orange and Andrew Young and Reverend Jackson and Diane Nash and Septima Clark and Zernona Clayton and of course Constance Baker Motley. Because you can't get to this point without the folks who were in Albany, Georgia, and who were in Birmingham and Mobile, and who were in Atlanta, who are all over the country. You cannot get to this point if you ignore the foot soldiers in Selma who were crossing the bridge, because it was a whole lot of folk who went to jail and who gotten beaten. When you had an 18-year-old woman who was put into this notorious prison in Mississippi, and she was beaten so badly that all she could utter is the word freedom, you also have to honor that sister, and Fannie Lou Hamer and Bob Moses and others, because that's how we got to this point. So we got to be honoring them. And on that point, we also have to do something else. And I appreciate the previous statements, and I heard folks speak. But before I got here, I saw a story on ESPN, and the NFL, they're going to honor Dr. King in the Super Bowl, and they're going to have on one end zone painted "Choose Love," and the other end zone, "It Takes All of Us." And that's cute. But the problem that I have continued to have is that when we have these celebrations, why are we consistently sanitizing and gentrifying Dr. King? You cannot sanitize and talk about, he talked about content of character and he wanted our kids to get along. Because first of all, if you want to recite the "I Have a Dream" speech, first, that was not the name of the speech. It was titled "Normalcy No More." Two, it was not the March on Washington. It was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And if you actually look at that particular speech or listen to it, in the top portion of the speech, he talked about police brutality. He talked about voting rights. He talked about check stamp insufficient funds. So in essence, the I have a dream portion is the hoop of a sermon, but you can't get a real sermon without a scripture or a thesis that sets up the whole sermon. And so we are enamored with the hoop and ignoring the thesis of what he was talking about. Just like we love to play the mountaintop portion of his speech. That's the last 2 minutes of that sermon on April 4th, 1968 from Mason Temple. But that's a 43-minute and 16-second sermon. So you can't talk about the mountaintop part if you ignore what he talked about when he name-checked companies we should be boycotting. When he said that we should have economic withdrawal, where he talked about how we must withhold our resources, that if people don't do business with us, we don't do business with them. He talked about the collective action of African Americans. That's all in the exact same sermon. But too many of us, we can recite the mountaintop part, can't recite any of that, and then we wonder why we are walking around talking about King's dream, but you cannot deal with a dream if you then don't wake up from the dream. And that's where we're situated right now. We are living right now in a country where black folks are under vicious attack. And the data is fundamentally clear. There's a massive effort to defund black America. When you look at it right now in terms of what this administration did the moment they got in, when for 2 years in this city, federal investigators were targeting an HOA here in Dallas that was discriminating against poor people, and they were prepared to go to court, yet this administration pulled back from that lawsuit. They were also going after Texas, Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick, because they were withholding $1 billion from minorities in Harris County after Hurricane Harvey because they did not want to send the funds to Harris County because it's blue. They pulled back from that lawsuit. And you got a black man who was his head of HUD, who is a state rep in this city, who's behind that. And let me be perfectly clear. I know lots of black Republicans. I know lots of black conservatives. And if you are a black Republican and you like that R in front of your name or behind your name, well, then maybe you need to decide which type of black Republican you're going to be. Because if you're going to choose to be a black Republican, be a Ed Brooke black Republican. And he was the one who shut down and stopped the filibuster of the Fair Housing Act in 1968 that paved the way for it to be passed a week and signed a week after Dr. King's assassination. If you're going to be a black Republican, Mayor Johnson, be a Jackie Robinson, who challenged Senator Barry Goldwater and who challenged him of the Civil Rights Act. You've got somebody occupying the White House who literally said to the New York Times last week, he said to the New York Times, he said that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake and it actually hurt many whites. They want to turn over the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act, the 1968 Fair Housing Act. We saw the same thing happen after Reconstruction when the Supreme Court invalidated the 1875 Civil Rights Law in 1883. That invalidation led to the 1896 Plessy v. Ferguson ruling. And what we must begin to understand is that we cannot say what is happening right now in America is something new. It's only new for those of us who are living now, because if you understand American history, this is not new. The reality in American history, if you show me a period of black success, I will show you a period of white backlash that follow it every time. And this is no time for folks to be slumbering and walking through and simply happy with our personal situation and our personal bank account, because right now there are folk who look like us who are catching hell all across this country, and I'm not just talking about black folks. All of a sudden, you got some folks who voted for Agent Orange, who are farmers, who are now crying and who are upset with what's happening. You've got folks who are in West Virginia who are saying, oh my God, please get rid of Obamacare, but don't touch the Affordable Care Act, not realizing it's the same thing. You got elected officials who are scared to stand up to abuses of power, to corrupt leaders because they are afraid of money being canceled. You got somebody named Tina Peters who was sentenced and sent to prison for voter fraud, and they've been trying to get her out, and now you got a Democratic governor who possibly is going to pardon her because he can't stand the heat. You cannot fight fascism when you have weak folks in political office who have no guts and courage. You're dealing right now in this state. I'm born here. My parents are born in this state. My grandparents came from Opelousas, Louisiana. And then you have governor and a lieutenant governor and an out-of-control legislature that's passing laws that are so nonsensical that they make, of course, the Congress during Jim Crow days look like children. They're attacking public universities, preventing professors from teaching what is right and what is proper. All these things are happening, and I'm stunned when I'm watching folks who are silent, who are saying nothing, even when they are graduates of the institution. I had a professor from Texas A&M on the show the other day, and many of my fellow Aggies are happy and excited about our football team, and I make it perfectly clear. I don't want to hear Greg Abbott or Dan Patrick or any other Republican talk about DEI because they don't mind DEI Saturdays. What we are dealing with are folks who literally, if you step back and realize what's going on, are trying to attack the entire infrastructure of Black America. Shortly after they took over, Cancer Alley in Louisiana, largely African Americans, suing the petrochemical companies, this administration pulled back from that lawsuit, calling it DEI. Black people, Lowndes County, Alabama, sewage backing up into their houses, into their backyards, because they did not have proper pipes put in the last 30 years. The Biden-Harris administration brokered a settlement. This administration overturned that settlement. You've got billions of grants being cut when it comes to health, mental health, Black maternal health, all of these different things. And too many of us are being silent as it's happening. Too many of us are saying, well, no, I don't want to say nothing because they might come after me. Well, guess what? They might come after you anyway. So at some point, I'd appreciate if you stand up and show some courage. Because, see, we can't sit here at an MLK event and watch what is happening and say we love and appreciate him if you are unwilling to do what he would do. Now, I know it's going to be all around the country on Monday. They're going to have these day of service events. And let me be perfectly clear. Ain't nobody got a picture or a photo of Dr. King at a shelter passing out food doing stuff. If King was alive and he would have turned 97 on Thursday, I can guarantee you Monday would not be a day of service. It would be a day of protest. I can tell you he will be challenging ICE, challenging Border Patrol. He'll be challenging HUD, challenging Commerce Department, challenging DOJ. So don't tell me you love and appreciate the work of Dr. King if you are unwilling to actually do his work in 2026. If you're going to have a slogan with awake in it, that requires you to actually be awake. But see, I don't want you just to be awake. I need you to have a plan of action after you've woken up. Because what we have to recognize is this nation will not go back to what it used to be. And I have been talking about this since 2009. I was at CNN in 2009, and John Avlon, who's down in Congress, were going on the air, and we were off air, and I said, John, you know we are living in the beginning stages of white minority resistance. And he said, Roland, what are you talking about? He said, white Americans, the majority of this country. I said, no, John, it's about to happen. And that's the basis of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. And see, you have to understand why I was framing that way. That was a study that was done. A poll that was done shortly was around the inauguration, 2009. And the question was asked, are you optimistic about the future of America for your children? Black folks, more than the majority said yes. Latinos, more than the majority said yes. Asian Americans, more than the majority said yes. White Americans, less than the majority. And I saw that, and I began to look deeper. And see, part of the issue is too many of us, we ain't deeper than mustard on a hot dog. We see that and keep moving. You fast forward 7 years, 2007 to September 2016, another survey was done. The question was asked, are you optimistic about the future of America economically for the next 10 years? Black people, lowest wealth, highest optimism. Latinos, second lowest wealth, second highest optimism. White Americans, highest wealth, lowest optimism. When you read that, saying, hold up, how can, on average, white Americans have more than any other, than African American Latinos, but you have the lowest optimism? Because they were seeing what was happening before our very eyes. That we were moving to a nation where you would have more people of color making a majority of this country than white Americans. See, there's no coincidence if you look at Twitter and Elon Musk is constantly tweeting about fertility rates. See, some of y'all are like, well, why does he keep focusing on fertility rates? Well, because around 2010, there were 10 states where the average white death rate was higher than the average white birth rate. Now you understand why they are attacking undocumented workers the way they are. This is about maintaining whiteness. Y'all, it's sitting before our very eyes. Okay, some of y'all, no, we ain't gonna clap on that. Some of y'all, I don't know about that. Okay, no, that's fine, that's fine. Because you about to get also a history lesson. Why are they complaining about immigration in Europe? Ireland, Germany, Italy, England, all European countries. Why all of a sudden do you see a rise in far right in Europe? Because it's the exact same thing happening here. Well, look at the birth rates. The reason Germany's economy has been stable for the last 20 years is because of immigration. Okay, anybody here, if you understand money, you cannot maintain a nation's gross domestic product, your GDP, in the next 20 years if you don't have people. Fewer people, lower GDP. More people, higher GDP. Okay, ask China. More than 30 years. Mayor, you were trade ambassador. Remember when China had their one-child rule? Now, this shows you some smart folks in China. They were not this smart. They had a one-drop rule. They had a one-child rule. You going to have one kid. They said, we got too many people. They didn't do the action rate charts. Because 30 years later, they said, oh, damn, we do not have enough people. They changed the law. They said, hold up, we need y'all to have at least two. Because you could not replace the folks who were passing away. There was a point 15, 20 years ago, America was freaking out. Oh my God, China's going to surpass us as the world's largest economy, and Americans were going crazy. Today, America, $30 trillion GDP, China, $19 trillion GDP. So what I'm saying to you is, what you're seeing right now is a massive white backlash because folk want to maintain power and control. You see the attacks on affirmative action in colleges. You see the attacks on contracts. Donald Trump has literally said to a federal judge, his administration, they want to get rid of the federal DBE program. $700 billion in contracts that go to individuals in this country. $37 billion of that money actually is of the DBE portion, and they say, okay, that's too much going to those folks. Now, first of all, black folks only getting $10 billion of the money, and which is 2% of the whole total. But the point there is, folk are fearful of what's happening. And so the anti-DEI attacks are going on. Because in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, they saw this transition happening before our very eyes. The BLM protest, you may not realize, was the first time in American history a black-centered movement had ever garnered a majority of American support for it. And there were forces in America that said, no, we can't have that. And so 2021, we got to attack BLM. 2022 is critical race theory. And let me tell you how crazy that was. I have worked at 13 different black-owned media companies. You do not get blacker than me. I had never in my life heard of CRT. So I know none of y'all heard of CRT unless you went to law school. But Christopher Rufo, Manhattan Institute, said if we can group everything racial under one umbrella, then we can attack it. CRT in 2022. They attacked woke in 2023. They attacked DEI in 2024. So the whole focus is, how can we now slow this down and begin to hold on to power as much as we can? You got a Supreme Court case that's going to be decided very soon called Louisiana versus Cali. Now here's what's crazy. They beat them in the courts, took it to the Supreme Court, went back to Supreme Court, still won. Then Louisiana said, well, let's come up with another way. So let's actually sue the black districts, saying that this discriminates against these two whites who are living in the district. Now, they never established how they were hurt and harmed by having a second black district when Louisiana is 1/3 black. Now, here's what's crazy. Based upon the questions, they are likely going to vote in their favor. You are going to see 1/3 of the Congressional Black Caucus disappear. You are going to see state reps, state senators, county commissioners, city council members, school board members all across the South wiped out because of this one Supreme Court decision. If you literally look at what's happening right now with the Supreme Court today, you can compare it to the Supreme Court in the late 1800s. If you look at the actions in Congress, you can compare it then to what is happening now. And so if you now completely undermine the entire civil rights and economic rights infrastructure, then you then are defunding black America. And that is what is happening before our very eyes. And so in 2026, this cannot be the usual MLK program. This can't be the usual MLK weekend. This can't be the usual time, because what we are facing right now are evil forces who are attacking every single system that exists. And let me also be perfectly clear, when they're attacking what's happening with black folks. When you hear them talk about affirmative action, I often have to remind them that there's no group in America who's benefited more than affirmative action than white women. And let me be real clear. I've read Project 2025, and I've said to many of my white sisters, you know they won't want you to stay at home, birth babies, not work, and get in the kitchen. I said, so trust me, when they're coming after us, they're coming after you too. We have to understand that this is not a drill. This thing is real. And you have evil folk who want to do evil things, and as long as we are remaining quiet, we are becoming compliant. And as long as we are saying nothing, we're giving them the freedom to actually do it. You're living in a state that is 60% minority, but 60% of whites vote. More black folks in this state who are eligible to vote than any other state in the country. Problem with Texas is not a red state. Texas is an unorganized state. That's what it is. And so if you actually care about the future for your children and for your grandchildren, then you've got to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to be a go-along, get-along Negro or white or Latino or Asian, or you going to have something of King fused into your spirit that gets into your bloodstream that says, I'm willing to do something about this. And so if you white, you're going to challenge some of your brothers and sisters at the country club, at the church, to call them out. If you are in this room and you're Republican, you're going to have to challenge some of your conservative evangelicals and say, who you going to follow? You going to follow Christ or the Antichrist? What we are facing right now in this country is a critical emergency, and far too many people are acting like this is just, it's going to blow away. It's not going to blow away. I spend numerous time every single day talking to people, going across this country, talking to poor folks. And you see the attack when it comes to food. How can you have folk call themselves pro-life, but then you want folks to starve? How can you have folk call themselves pro-life, but then you want to sit here and cut folks off in USAID, knowing full well millions will die across the world? How can you call yourself pro-life when I ain't never seen you standing with a black mother whose son was shot and killed by the cops who did not care carrying a gun? How can you call yourself pro-life if you're against Medicaid expansion and you know rural hospitals are going to shut down? No, you're anti-abortion and you're not pro-life. How can you say that you are pro-education when you let folks in this state pass an absolute voucher scam bill that's going to steal billions of dollars? And let me be real clear. I found that school choice is the black choice. I know what school choice is. That ain't school choice. That's stealing money from public schools so folks can send their kids to private school, and that's what's going on. What we have to have right now are people of courage. So maybe what has to happen in 2026, maybe folk in this room got to listen to Ella Baker when she told the SNCC students, take your college clothes off and put your overalls on. And when you go talk to those black folks in Lowndes County or talk to them in the Delta in Mississippi, she said they may not have nothing but a second or third grade education, but they're smart and they know exactly what they want. The only way we stop what happens today is if we have people of conscience today who are willing to stand up and fight and do battle, who are willing to phone bank, who are willing to give money to campaigns, who are willing to go door to door. And so that's what has to be happening right now. So some of us got to stop being so cute in our clothes and our fine cars and realizing that that is not going to save this country, save this state, and save this city. If you say you love and care about Dr. King, well, act like it in your actions. Every single day in my network, the Black Star Network, we are speaking truth to power. And I say to folk real simple, if you do good, I'm going to talk about you. But if you do bad, I'm going to talk about you. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to talk about you. Because, see, I don't have time for the nonsense. None of us know exactly how much time that we have. We don't know what day, what hour, what minute, 1 second. And so we may say, well, you know, I've made it and I'm good and it's all good. I heard lots of folks last year say after Vice President Harris lost, oh, I'm tired. I'm taking a rest. And I said, I don't want to hear that bullshit. My mom and daddy is 78 years old. They worked campaigns and ran phone banks and were precinct judges, and they were involved. They can be tired. They can retire. But you cannot sit here, if you 60 and under, telling me how tired you are and how old, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because if it were not for other folk who came before you, who did not get tired, who encountered dogs and fire hoses, and who couldn't get hired, and they had to deal with Jim Crow every single day of their life, ain't no way in hell you should ever say I'm tired. Because if you're going to fight for your nieces, fight for your nephews, fight for your grandchildren, because you have to create an America that they are going to walk into. You may have done what you're supposed to do, but everything you do right now is about them. And what we need today are people of courage. The only way we're here because regular, ordinary folk who clean bedpans, folk who didn't have little education, those folks cared enough to say, no, we're going to vote. And we're going to keep marching, and we're going to keep challenging, and we're going to keep suing. I think about the houses that were blown up. On the night Obama was elected on CNN, many people stopped me and they said, man, you know, I was shedding tears. And here's the deal. I didn't shed tears that night for Obama. The moment that graphic came up at 10:01 and it said President-elect Barack Obama, the reason the tears came down on a live on international television, because the first image that came into my mind were the black soldiers who were lynched in their uniforms. That night, I thought about the black soldiers who were on trains coming back home. And in train depots, there were battles with white troops. The same folk who were in Europe fighting fascism were coming back, and they could not be respected in their own country. That's what I was thinking about. And so when I sit here, and when Trump, when he met with the media the first time he was there, and I got invited to 3 of those lunches. I went to 2 of them, and normally the president walks in and everybody stands up and you walk to him. I was like that Simpson meme to the bush. I just stepped back. And I was standing there, and he was shaking hands, making his way over, and I was like, I can't call this man Mr. President, because I can't call you something when you ain't got respect for the office. See, I don't call everybody daddy because you impregnated somebody. Some of y'all gonna get that one too. So he was making his way over, and I was like, I can't call him Mr. President. I said, I can't call him Mr. Trump. So when he got to me and stuck his hand, I was like, good to see you. I went, hi. That's all I had. Because see, if you don't have respect for the office, I can't show you respect. You can't lead an insurrection and think I'm going to call you by a title. You can't call black women out their names and think I'm going to show you some respect. You can't denigrate journalists at news conference and think I'm going to show you some respect. That's not going to happen. And right now, there are individuals who are admitted Nazi lovers who are still employed. Here in Texas, there's an ICE attorney who was busted by the Texas Observer for running a white supremacist Twitter feed who admitted to loving Nazis. He's back on the job. There was another guy, Paul Ingracia, who they were put in for nomination, and they pulled it because he was busted when these text messages leaked where he said there's a Nazi streak in him. They just moved him to the General Service Administration. So when you have an administration that is knowingly allowing racists and Nazis to work for the people and the taxpayers are paying, no, I can't respect that. And so what we have to recognize, if that's what they're going to allow to happen, if you're going to allow Stephen Miller to do what he's doing and others to do what they do, then I cannot in any way respect you. I can't call you a Christian. I can't call you a patriot. I can't call you any of that because your actions show me something different. And so right now in 2026 at the beginning, every person in this room has to make a decision as to what am I prepared to do. You got to make a choice whether you're going to stand on the side with king or you're going to stand on the side with somebody who wants to be a king. You're going to have to make a decision as to whether you're going to fight for the people or you're going to fight against the people. This is a moment where we have been called to arms, called to action, nonviolent action. And if this generation wants the next generation to mention their names, then they are going to have to stand up. Because understand, just like in Nehemiah, when Nehemiah had the wall was crumbling, he said, we got to rebuild. He went to the people, gave them the plan of action. The people said, let us rebuild. And there were some haters there who were saying, y'all can't rebuild the wall. Oh, y'all can't help the poor. Oh, y'all can't reestablish voting rights. And he said, no, ignore the haters. Keep on building. Then the haters saw they were making progress, just like the Supreme Court did when they, in the Shelby v. Holder decision, cutting back, oh no, we can get rid of Section 4. Now they want to get rid of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. But Nehemiah said, when the haters come, keep building with one hand, but keep your other hand on your weapon. And then when they finished building the wall, guess what it said? These people built the portion of the wall here. And these folk built the portion of the wall here. Well, guess what, Dallas? You got to make a decision. Will your name be mentioned as the ones who stood up and fought against this? Or will you not be known because you did nothing? I'm telling you right now, I want history to record that when they start naming the names of the folks who fought fascism, who fought discrimination, who fought these illegal actions, I need my name to be mentioned. Now, if you want to be anonymous, that's on you. But you got to decide whether my name's going to be mentioned for history's sake or I'm simply going to be one of those folks who were present but who had no presence. This is a moment that you got to decide. And let me be real clear. It ain't going to be easy. It's going to be tough. You're going to have some folks who are going to be mad and upset. They might be your family members and your church members. But understand, we are in a battle for the soul of a country. We are in a battle for our lives. We're in a battle for our future families. And I'm telling you right now, just like my Alfred brother Vertner Woodson Tandy said, we will fight until hell freezes over, and then we will fight on the ice.
Well, if you aren't awake, if you're not awake before that speech, I'm pretty sure you should be awake now. And it's always great when a fellow Alpha man quotes Vertner Winston Tandy, one of our jewels. All right. I would like to welcome Commissioner Amber Pickens to the stage and Mr. Johnson to make a special presentation.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Ben Abbott, the attorney at law at Ben Abbott and Associates, who is recovering from an accident, thank you all for allowing Attorney Abbott and his team to be a part of this prestigious event. It is their absolute honor to support this wonderful MLK celebration. It is my pleasure to recognize someone who has made a lasting impact on this event and all who had the opportunity to hear you speak. Thank you for challenging us to think differently, to reflect more deeply, and to leave the room inspired to act. Brother Roland Martin, on behalf of the City of Dallas, MLK Advisory Board, Office of Housing and Community Empowerment, and the MLK staff, we present to you this token of appreciation for your phenomenal presentation. I'd like to invite Mr. Willis Johnson, of course, to join us for a photo.